alien armies do have a raid incoming. I repeat, a raid incoming.
Dead End Joker raided your channel with 1 viewers.
Took a treat. She's too quick. Good job. I'm so proud of you two. Good girl. Oh, good girl. Come on, Silky, you can do it. Silky, you can do it. Good job.
I'm not in any fucking hurry to get into it because it's all dog shit. Ethnic cleansing? Dog shit.
welcome to our places.
Transphobia?
I like dog shit content.
Dog shit.
Subscribe.
Genocide? Dog shit.
I've been rapping, doing shows and building songs and carrying on and being broke as all of y'all. And all of y'all been holding it down, living day to day. On a barely living
So yeah, dog shit content.
Hello there.
I see a man in the mirror that I'm proud of. In way too deep on my mama, I need power. Babies on the street, coming hits like every hour. If you want some beef, yeah, baby ain't a coward. You better stand clear. Only alive for some dead precedents. I'm the man in the mirror. I'm here for long, I claim my residence. I'm the man in the mirror. My numbers growing, ain't it evident? I'm the man in the mirror. I'm finally glad I set some precedent. I'm the man in the mirror. Please chill out, baby, got all the labels like tweaking now. Yeah, I just set a standard that you'll have to allow. Yeah, I'm sure I got some years left, watch me keep to my sound. I'm gonna deem myself the man of the year. You should've never showed this music to some dogs, cause we switch it up and now we on the force. Baby always making gas, he found the sauce. Come and find me flowing 90 in a foreign whip with the roof that's disappearing. Yes, I'm reflecting. Can't take things for granted while I'm staring. Yes, I'm reflecting. See a man in the mirror that I'm proud of. In way too deep.
Hey everyone, good morning.
Hi. It's like every hour. If you want some beef, yeah, baby ain't a coward.
Oh, that was such a little capuchin.
I'm the man in the mirror. I'm here for long, I claim my residence.
Do that again.
My numbers growing, ain't it evident? I'm the man in the mirror.
There we go, that's a better one.
I'm the man in the mirror.
Get it.
I'm the man in the mirror. I'm the man in the mirror. I'm the man in the mirror. I'm the man in the mirror.
with food to eat. Why they sleeping, why they snooze, don't be. I was seizing opportunity. Now they don't know what to do with me. I keep going all like
Attention alien army.
Oh my goodness.
A raid incoming. I repeat, a raid
It's a boomerang raid.
A lot of those Cisco assets right here in the US. Is that something, for example, sir, that you're looking at?
Dumbplank raided your channel with 6
Major
viewers.
American companies now that are either
Thank you
in
so
Venezuela
much.
or in the case of Citgo
I
here in the
despise his
United
face,
States. It'll
his
make a
mustache,
big difference to
his
the
hair.
United States
Mustache.
economically if we could have American oil companies really invest in and produce the oil capabilities in Venezuela. It'd be good for the
Thank you so much for the raid. Hi, Dumbplank. How are you doing? How was your stream? Everyone, please go to twitch.tv/dumbplank and check him out. Follow. Please and thanks. Hope you're doing excellent. And Mad Cat Scotty, welcome in. Happy Tuesday, bruv. It was bad. I like woke up like 18 minutes ago and was just like, all right, time to stream. I was actually late for when I had said I was going to go live on YouTube, so. But I really needed a nap. Naps are important. You know, and part of the struggle that I face, a lot of us face with being disabled, is not being able to like fit that, 9 to 5 schedule because of health needs and energy levels and spoons. So every day we're gonna fight for disability justice. I'm sorry, you've had a rough week. I hope things smooth out for you. 94% sure this is where I started. I like the 6% of uncertainty there. Yes, I did raid out to Dumbplank earlier this morning, so welcome back. If you were here before, or welcome in. Hi everyone, I'm Adrian Vixen. I use they, them pronouns. I'm a non-binary, queer, autistic, disabled, variety streamer. I cover leftist news and politics. Shit that I find interesting. Let's go. All right, you find folks ready? Are we ready to just jump into it today? Ready to continue on with the world? Where did I get a mosquito bite? I really hope there's not a mosquito in here. Scratching. Anyways. I do need a Red Bull. Alright, so here's what we're gonna do. Thank you so much. I got it from the Kafia studio, where the proceeds go to the PCRF. So you're in the market for one, or if anyone is, I recommend getting it there. We're gonna start off I'm gonna put y'all on the train, leave you to the cats while I go get a beverage. Good luck, survive. I hope I see you in a moment. Did you make it? Oh no, looks like we had a major derailment. Oh, life, good morning. I hate your boss too. Yeah, so this is diorama shokudo. Which is like diorama restaurant, assuming somewhere in Japan. Looks like Japan. Also, they do have lives. And I think they try to get the kittens adopted. So this is the place. Obviously, I have no idea what they're saying. So many kittens. One more. There's the news is not pleasant today. So let's, you know, all right. Amazing. All right, here is a link to the playlist for today. I'm going to drop it in both chats. I think I updated it in Twitch, but not YouTube. Sorry, I'm also setting up the background music that hopefully won't get rewritten, because it should be free. We should have something. Not the best background music I've ever had, but you know what? We work with what we got. All right. We're going to start with headlines from Democracy Now! And we will focus in on the Israeli airstrike in Al-Mawasi, which was the designated safe zone, if you recall. This is where they told everyone to shelter, was in Al-Mawasi. And they dropped a massive bomb on a refugee tent camp of displaced Palestinians. And killed over 40 and injured 60 more. So we have 100 plus casualties in this event. I just wonder how many more massacres until enough is enough.
Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. In the Gaza Strip, at least 40 Palestinians were killed, scores more injured this morning as an Israeli strike ripped through a tent encampment housing displaced Palestinians near Khan Yunis. Israel had designated the area as a so-called safe zone. Witnesses say at least 4 missiles ripped through the crowded camp as people slept, engulfing tents in flames, scattering body parts. The United Nations says its efforts to vaccinate hundreds of thousands of Palestinian children against polio were further delayed after members of a UN convoy were
Life in YouTube chat says however many it takes to rebuild a, quote, greater Israel. And, you know, that is not an inaccurate or unfair description of Israel's intentions here. Which requires no more Palestine and stealing land from neighboring states. Yeah. I mean, we saw, you know, the common Israeli thought is they wish there was no Palestinians. That would just solve their problems, right?
detained by Israel's military at gunpoint for more than 8 hours Monday in northern Gaza.
What?
This is UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker, convoy the United Nations, flames scattering bodies.
Look at the size of this fucking crater. There were people here sleeping.
Body parts. The United Nations says its
Look at
efforts to
that.
vaccinate.
Look at the size of that fucking crater.
Hundreds of thousands of.
We are going to talk more about the airstrike specifically, so let's get through the rest of the headlines. But I am just like, of course there's another giant massacre, another huge bomb dropped on a so-called safe zone. And of course, there's no such thing as a red line anymore.
Palestinian children against polio were further delayed after members of a UN convoy were detained by Israel's military at gunpoint for more than 8 hours Monday in northern Gaza. This is UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk.
The war and averting a full-blown regional conflict is an absolute and urgent priority. Equally, the wider situation of illegality across the occupied Palestinian territory, deriving from Israel's policies and practices, as so clearly spelled out by the International Court of Justice in its advisory opinion in July, must be comprehensively addressed.
Monday marked the traditional first day of school in Gaza, but for a second year in a row, classes are canceled for all of Gaza's school children. ActionAid Palestine said in a statement, quote, "Going to school is not a luxury, it's a fundamental right, and yet hundreds of thousands of children in Gaza are being denied an education for the second academic year in a row. A whole generation is being denied the opportunity to learn and build a better future for themselves," unquote. In the occupied West Bank, mourners held a funeral procession Monday for the Turkish-American activist Ayşenur Ezgi, who was fatally shot in the head by Israeli forces Friday while she joined a protest against illegal Israeli settlements in the town of Beita. Witnesses say she was killed by an Israeli sniper after the demonstration had already dispersed. This is Lulu, another U.S. activist in the West Bank.
Very saddened by this. My heart and my thoughts are with her family, and we as volunteers here, we feel her loss, but we're not scared off by the Israelis. We are not scared off by this attack. We will continue to stay here in solidarity with the Palestinians for as long as we live, no matter what happens.
Ayşenur's family is calling on the Biden administration to order an independent investigation into the unlawful killing of a U.S. citizen and to ensure full accountability. On Monday, the State Department appeared to rule out a U.S.-led probe, saying it would wait for the results of an Israeli investigation.
I think most important is to let this process play out, for the facts to be gathered and for those to come to light. And I will just leave it at that.
To see our coverage of Ayşenur Aygi's killing and growing calls for justice around her death, visit democracynow.org. Russia's military says it shot down 144 drones launched from Ukraine at targets inside Russia in an overnight wave of attacks that killed a 46-year-old woman in her Moscow home. 3 others were injured as the blast tore through a high-rise apartment building early this morning, setting other residential buildings on fire. Witnesses described a chaotic scene.
We were asleep. I got up to go to work. I looked through the window and saw a ball of fire. I had just a second to cover my spouse with a blanket. The window got smashed out by a shockwave.
Everything is messed up there.
We were in shock. I grabbed whatever was nearby, children, the dog, everything, and ran away because we thought that our home would collapse as well.
Ukrainian officials have yet to comment on their latest drone attacks on Russia. On Monday, NATO warned Moscow over violations of Latvian and Romanian airspace by Russian drones, calling them irresponsible and potentially dangerous. Latvian officials said they recovered wreckage of an Iranian-designed Shahed drone that crashed 60 miles from Latvia's border with Belarus on Saturday. Meanwhile, Sweden's government says it's preparing to transfer Saab fighter jets to Ukraine as part of an increase in Swedish arms shipments. Texas is suing the Biden administration over federal privacy rules that bar investigators from viewing medical records of patients who travel out of state to have an abortion. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton says the rule creates a, quote, backdoor attempt at weakening Texas's laws, unquote, which ban nearly all abortions. In Missouri, an amendment that could undo the state's near-total abortion ban is at risk of being removed from the ballot after a Missouri judge ruled Friday the campaign to get the ballot measure did not sufficiently explain the amendment in the signature-gathering phase. Missourians for Constitutional Freedom, the group behind the ballot measure, is arguing its case today before the state Supreme Court, which will need to make an immediate decision since today is also the deadline for any ballot changes before they're printed for mail-in voters. Meanwhile, the Nebraska Supreme Court heard arguments Monday in lawsuits against 2 separate abortion ballot measures. Nebraska currently has a 12-week abortion ban. And in more related news, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' election police unit has been investigating voters who signed ballot petitions for Amendment 4, Florida's abortion rights measure, which would toss out the state's 6-week abortion ban. Since it was formed in 2022, DeSantis' so-called election police have been deployed to intimidate voters, in particular, likely Democratic voters. The Justice Department has charged 2 leaders of a white supremacist group alleging they plotted to assassinate at least 1 U.S. senator and a district court judge. Dallas Humber of Elk Grove, California, and Matthew Allison of Boise, Idaho, each face 15 counts of soliciting hate crimes and providing material support to terrorism. Kristen Clark is head of the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division.
The defendant's goal, the indictment charges, was to ignite a race war, accelerate the collapse of what they viewed as an irreparably corrupt government, and bring about a white ethno state.
Republican vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance is escalating his racist anti-immigrant rhetoric, this time targeting the Haitian community in his home state of Ohio. On Monday, Vance wrote on the social media site X, quote, "Reports now show that people have had their pets abducted and eaten by people who shouldn't be in this country. Where is our border czar?" he asked. The Trump campaign piled on to the bizarre right-wing misinformation campaign, writing, quote, "President Trump will deport migrants who eat pets," unquote.
What?
The first and currently only
fucking just blatant racism. Just racism.
Scheduled debate between Trump and Kamala Harris is happening tonight on ABC News. You can watch the debate at democracynow.org and tune in tomorrow on Democracy Now! For a recap and analysis.
The debate will be on Democracy Now! We might do that.
Students at most Barrow County schools are returning to classroom.
Like, part of the problem is a lot of the times the debates are only broadcast like on like mainstream media, and then they have like bullshit commentary. But if it's just going to be streamed from democracynow.org, that might be a good place to watch it. Especially without worrying about copyright. So we might do that. I was debating if we were going to do the debate, because it really is just spectacle, but it also peak entertainment. You know what I mean?
Today, nearly a week after a 14-year-old with an assault rifle shot and killed 2 other 14-year-old students and 2 teachers, injuring 9 others. Classes at Appalachia High School, where the shooting took place, remain canceled. The Washington Post reports the mother of the suspected shooter contacted the school on the morning of the shooting and warned a counselor about an extreme emergency involving her son about a half hour before the first shots were fired. The warning reportedly came after her son texted her the message, quote, "I'm sorry, Mom." Separate text messages also revealed the family was in contact with school officials about the boy's mental health a week before the massacre.
Jeez.
Authorities in California and Nevada have issued mandatory evacuation orders for tens of thousands of people as an intense heat wave grips large swaths of the Southwest. Fast-moving wildfires are burning south of Reno in Nevada and in California's San Bernardino County, Orange County, and at the foothills of LA's National Forest, as well as in Northern California's Lake County. UCLA climate scientist Daniel Swain said extreme fire behavior has also been observed in Oregon, Idaho, and Wyoming. In tech news, Google and Apple are facing billions of dollars in fines after losing their respective appeals against the European Union. The European Court of Justice ruled Apple must pay 13 billion euros in back taxes to Ireland in a legal case that spanned 10 years as it went through the appeals process. Separately, Google must pay a 2.4 billion euro fine for favoring its own price comparison shopping service over its rivals. This comes as Google's second major antitrust suit brought by President Biden's Justice Department kicked off Monday. At issue is Google's monopoly over the digital advertising industry. Last month, a federal judge ruled Google operated an illegal monopoly in the online search industry. In Florida, the Miami-Dade Police Department has released footage showing how officers stopped and handcuffed Miami Dolphins star Tyreek Hill as he drove to Sunday's game. The video reveals officers rapidly escalated the situation from a simple traffic stop to a violent detention, twice pressing Hill face down into the pavement, handcuffed.
Jesus Christ.
Get out of the car right now. We're not playing this game. Get out. Get out! Get out! Get out! Get out! Get
statement, the Miami Dolphins wrote, "It is both maddening and heartbreaking to watch the very people we trust to protect our community use such unnecessary force and hostility towards these players. Yet it's also a reminder that not every situation like this ends in peace, as we're grateful this one did. What if I wasn't Tyreek Hill is a question that will..."
My bad. Pro stream.
Welcome to Democracy. Place remain canceled. The Washington Post reports the mother of the suspected shooter contacted the school on the morning of the shooting. Thousands of people as an intense heat wave grips Laurie mom. Separate text messages also revealed the family was in contact with school officials from a similar Miami Dolphins. In peace, as we're grateful this one did. What if I wasn't Tyreek Hill is a question that will carry with resounding impact, they wrote. Another Dolphins player, Calais Campbell, who came to de-escalate the situation, was also handcuffed. And legendary actor James Earl Jones has died at the age of 93. He took on iconic blockbuster roles like Star Wars' Darth Vader and Lion King's Mufasa, and is also remembered for films like The Great White Hope and Matewan, about the 1920 coal miner strike in West Virginia. Though he became well known for his commanding, booming voice, James Earl Jones overcame a stutter that he said was so debilitating as a child, he sometimes pretended to be nonverbal for years. In 2003, Jones read the Frederick Douglass speech, "What to the Slave is the 4th of July," during a performance of Voices of People's History of the United States, which was co-edited by the late historian Howard Zinn.
What to the American slave is your 4th of July? I answer, a day that reveals to him more than all other days of the year the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is a constant victim.
We will play more of this performance in Peoples of a History of the United States, James Earl Jones reading the speech of the abolitionist and former enslaved person Frederick Douglass later in the broadcast. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report.
From the horror that we are about to dive into. Thanks, Joker. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how many people even got on YouTube right now, but try to be mindful of the content warnings and stuff. But, you know, I forget smoke because it's all fucking triggering. And you know what? Maybe we should smoke some weed. Maybe we should smoke some weed. Good morning, Fargo. Dealing with some work drama, Soul Life? I'm so sorry. Okay. Ooh.
Daylight gives you a sense of the power that came from the air. Israel says it targeted various Hamas field commanders. But what that means is that Israel targeted a camp for the internally displaced. Their tarpaulin tents no protection against Israel's military might. Israel deemed this a safe zone.
They told us to flee to Al-Mawasi. We believed them and came to Khan Yunis. We moved our belongings, as you can see. We were sleeping safely with our children. At 12:30 at night we heard missiles, around 6 of them. I don't know what they hit. Children and women. People flew. It's an indescribable feeling. Body parts. We took our children from under the sand.
11 months into this war, Israel does what it wants. There is no accountability, no real pressure from the international community. Palestinian lives seemingly don't matter.
We came here to check people and we saw holes, tents buried under the sand. We can no longer see the tents. Look, where are they? Everything is buried. Rescuers came and they started pulling some out, but others are still missing. They have nothing to do with resistance or anything. They are unarmed people.
This is just another day. Stephanie Decker, Al Jazeera.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.
Israeli forces targeted the Al-Mawasi tent camp near the city of Khan Yunis in the early hours of Tuesday. Dozens of Palestinians seeking refuge in what was a designated safe zone were killed, and many more sustained injuries. Israel says it was targeting a Hamas command center it claims was located in the humanitarian area. Hamas responded, accusing Israel of manufacturing lies to conceal one of its most heinous massacres in this war so far.
You're telling me this is targeting someone? Look at the state of these camps. They were raising an entire area to target one person. They didn't warn us or anything. All of a sudden, bombs started raining down. My son was in my arms and I couldn't even see him. They told us to come to Al-Mawasi. They said it would be safe. You come here and you don't find peace, you find destruction.
Palestinian civil defense units quickly responded to the strikes. Workers were shocked by what they saw.
We heard airstrikes, very violent, and before we even got confirmation of the attacks, we immediately headed out towards the camp. We found craters in the ground that are deeper than 15 meters, martyrs lying everywhere. We started responding to the emergency, and we are conducting search and rescue operations.
This isn't the first time the Al-Mawasi camp has been targeted. An attack in mid-July killed
Thank you, Johnny.
at least 90 people and wounded some 300 others. And with more and more areas designated as safe zones routinely being targeted by the Israeli army, Palestinians are wondering where they can go to be safe. Malik Fouda, TRT World.
Go to Jenin in the occupied West Bank and speak to the Palestinian Affairs analyst Osama Nazal. Osama, good day to you. Could you start with giving us a personal account? What's life like in Jenin? Are you able to go out? Are you able to see your friends? Can you mingle with other people?
Yeah, for the Israeli occupation ended its major aggression on Jenin that lasted 14 days, and about 3 days the Israeli forces withdrew from the city and its refugee camp. But this doesn't mean that Jenin is free from the Israeli occupiers, as they can return any time they want because it is under the Israeli occupation, and they carried out incursions into some suburbs of Jenin and the nearby villages just last night and the day before. However, it is possible to move within the city and within the nearby villages. It's possible for the people to make shopping, especially we are starting the schooling year in Palestine. It started yesterday and people are in need for shopping, for buying books, bags, and all that. So I can say that the situation is a little bit alleviated, but the people know well that it is not the end of their suffering and catastrophe, as Israel carries out incursions into the city and into any Palestinian city, not only Jenin. Anytime the Israeli military decides to carry out such incursions and such aggressions against the people.
Yeah, and when they carry out these incursions, which of course we've covered extensively because what's happening is absolutely shocking in terms of the world reaction saying, please don't extend the war beyond Gaza. But when they carry out these incursions, Osama, if a Palestinian resident is walking on a street at 1 o'clock in the morning when an Israeli armored vehicle comes by, is that Palestinian likely to die at that moment? Are they being shot at just for standing outside and existing?
I mean,
here in the occupied Palestinian territories, whether in Jenin, Tulkarem, Tubas, mainly the northern part of the occupied West Bank, the personal security is completely missing. No Palestinian can expect what time the Israeli occupation forces make out an incursion and they start shooting in every direction and people get killed and injured. Even on the road to Jenin or to any Palestinian city, you can't expect as a Palestinian when the Israeli settler terrorist groups might attack you with fire, with bottle, like Molotov cocktail, with rocks and put your life at risk. As long as the Israeli occupation is continuing for the Palestinian territories, we can't talk about security for the Palestinians. The life of every Palestinian citizen is at risk, is threatened all the time, especially the Israeli occupation government unleashed the hands of the Israeli settlers and the settler terroristic groups to attack Palestinians anytime, anywhere. And we all remember that 2 days ago, Israeli settlers killed a 13-year-old Palestinian girl from a small village called Kiryut near Nablus. We can't talk about Palestinians' security as long as the Israeli occupation is continuing.
And that kind of insecurity is, of course, mirrored. It may even be amplified for the people of Gaza. And just to take you back to what's happening there, Osama, what do you make of the international reaction to this clear lack of proportionality of these Israeli attacks, and this latest one on Al-Mawasi being another example?
What happened last night in Al-Mawasi of Khan Yunis and burying the people under the sand alive, using the latest and the gigantic American-made missiles by the Israeli warplanes is not only heartbreaking, but it is soul-shattering, really. Not only for the Palestinians, but for every human being believing in humanity, in justice, in the right of every person to life. That is soul-shattering, heartbreaking. The Israeli massacre against the people in Al-Mawasi of Khan Yunis was committed in an area classified as safe zone, as the people there have their sheltering tents because they were displaced from the northern part of Gaza and other parts of Gaza, believing that they can protect themselves in these tents in Al-Mawasi area. So Israel is violating the right to life of the Palestinian people and violating every divine and every positive law. And this is encouraged really by the American administration position. As we saw yesterday, the American officials and the White House like vindicating the Israeli war criminal Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and putting the blame on the Palestinian factions in Gaza. This encourages Israel to commit more massacres and more pogroms against the Palestinians. And we are failed as Palestinians by the international community and by all of the humanity. The Palestinians in Gaza have been slaughtered one by one over the past 11 months, and until now we don't see any concrete action to put an end to the Israeli ongoing massacres and pogroms against displaced Palestinians in.
Whole Life says, I bet Israel hears they buried people under sand and gets giddy of the added unforeseen lethality of the strike. And you're correct. And you know what's interesting? They're buried under the sand this time, not under the rubble, because there wasn't even buildings there to protect them. Because Al-Mawasi is a fucking desert that didn't have any infrastructure or anything. But they were sheltering there because that's where Israel told them to go. How many times have we seen this? Where Israel designates a place a safe zone, tells people to evacuate other areas, then bombs the fucking safe zone. We've seen this over and over and over again. With our bombs.
We begin in southern Gaza, where at least 40 people have been killed and 60 injured in an Israeli attack in an area housing displaced people. Warplanes bombed an encampment in Al-Mawasi, west of Khan Yunis. It happened in the vicinity of a field hospital run by the British charity UK Med. The attack caused large craters and widespread devastation. Emergency teams are recovering bodies and the injured. Israel's military says it targeted a Hamas command center, but Hamas has called the claim a blatant lie. But earlier in central Gaza, an Israeli airstrike killed several people after a home was targeted in Al-Barej refugee camp. The injured were rushed to Al-Aqsa Hospital in Deir al-Balah. Bara Zuhaili is a vascular surgeon who has recently returned from Gaza. He joins us now from Flint in Michigan. Welcome to the program. Describe, if you can, the kind of chaos and devastation that ensues when airstrikes target people living in tents and makeshift homes, and how that affects any kind of rescue effort.
So in Gaza, there is a common phrase that I learned recently. It's very funny and very sad at the same time. The phrase goes as, in Gaza, whoever died has survived, and whoever survived is dying. So anytime I hear something like this, I hear about 40, 50 people are dead. My heart or my mind goes to the people who have survived this attack. And by no means, I'm not saying that 40 people is not a significant number of deaths. Even one civilian dying is one too many. But honestly, what I saw in those kind of attacks when I was there is not only the severity of the people who actually died, it's the injuries that happened around it. For example, one of the stories that really stuck to my mind in one of those attacks, there was something that they called a precision attack. They were attacking one specific tent around Nasser Hospital, where I was in Khan Yunis. And supposedly they attacked one tent. But about 20 tents away from that tent, we have multiple injuries. And one specific story that came to me that really broke my heart at the time was I was in the ER in Nasser Hospital, and I saw a young lady. She's in her late 20s. She was literally pacing from one side of the ER to the other. She would stay in one side of the ER for
I mean, I think that's a fair point. E-clams. And yes, haho, very useful to remind ourselves that the Democrats in the US are very right-wing. They are a right-wing party. If you are a Democrat, you are a right-winger. You just don't know it. You're not on the left. I hate to break it to you.
About 2-3 minutes, and then she would literally pace quickly to the other side. And I was so fascinated. I was like, what is she doing? Why is she doing this? So I dropped everything I'm doing and I ran after her. And it turns out that this lady, she's a mother of two. Her two daughters, one is 6 and one is 9 or 10, I believe. One daughter has significant shrapnel came to her face. destroying half of her face. And I apologize if I'm sharing too much graphic information, but I think people has to know this. Literally, her brain was sticking out. You could see the brain material of that little child. And the ER staff said, you know what? She's beyond any resuscitation effort. We will let her just pass away. Yet she was still breathing. She was still grasping for air. So they put her on one side of the ER where they let all the little kids die peacefully, quote unquote, peacefully. On the other end of the ER, it was her other daughter who has both legs amputated, and she was actively bleeding from both legs. So this young mother, she was torn physically and mentally. She was racing from one side of the ER to say goodbye to her daughter, whose brain is showing and who's sending her last breath, going to the other side of the ER to put some pressure on the other daughter, who is actively bleeding from both amputated legs. So this is the kind of chaos that we get after each one of those attacks. And again, the focus usually in the media is about the one who died, and no disrespect to them, that's really tragedy. But my heart as a surgeon or as a physician goes to the injured, mostly pediatric injuries that happen around those severity or around those casualties.
And with that kind of unimaginable trauma that you describe, how do you even attempt to carry out medical procedures without the equipment or supplies that are actually needed?
You try your best. And the sad part is, even when you try your best, even when we've done, and I'm so proud of my colleagues in Gaza, the doctors, the nurses, I have seen some amazing cases that are done under the bombardment. But even with that, even with those heroic efforts, in between cases, whenever I have no cases, no surgery to do, I will just go do rounds and just check random patient in the hospital. And it wasn't uncommon where I would go to see someone, and I will ask that someone, you have some bandage, you have some gauze in your legs. When was the last time that someone changed that bandage? And the standard of care in the US is at least once a day. At least once a day, you should change the bandage so it doesn't get infected. And the very common answer would be, oh, the last time someone changed this bandage was 6 weeks ago. So I will grab my scissor and I will cut that bandage to see what's underneath it. And very, very common, I would see live maggot and worms coming out of the wound. It was literally eating the flesh of that poor patient, because no one has even simple gauze. When we talk about supplies in Gaza, I'm not talking about fancy supplies. I'm not talking about surgical material or surgical instrument. I'm literally talking about simple gauze and tape. They don't have it. And that leads to the patient I just described to you, where no one has changed the gauze for 6 weeks, to the point where the maggots and the worms are physically eating his flesh. And very often we'll end up amputating that leg because it was no use, just because of the lack of simple material, which is gauze and dressing and tape.
With all of this, how do you feel, not just as a surgeon, but as a human being, when you hear of these kind of ongoing strikes?
I honestly, I don't have a way to describe it. The way I would think about it is, what's the point? Like, what is the end game of this? What is, and not only the airstrike, I often saw pediatric kids coming up with a bullet to the head. And honestly, in my mind, I'm thinking, how is that a military target? How is a kid who's barely 10 or 11 with a bullet to his head, how is that little kid a military target? Honestly, it goes beyond my ability to understand what's the point of this war anymore, given the significant amount of not only civilian casualties, but pediatric casualties that we see on the TV, and I saw myself multiple times there.
Okay, with those harrowing accounts, Dr. Bara Zuhaili, we thank you for your time. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel.
Daylight gives you a sense of the power that came from the air.
Good morning, Christina.
We We continue to look at Israel's war on Gaza, where the official death toll has topped 41,000 Palestinians. So that could be a vast undercount that doesn't include those remain trapped in the rubble and the people and children who've died due to chronic illnesses, infectious diseases spreading across Gaza. Over the past 11 months, Israel's destroyed Gaza's health system and other crucial infrastructure, placed a blockade on medications and other urgent aid. More than 2 million Palestinians living in Gaza also risk imminent famine, with children starving at a record rate. The UN's humanitarian aid chief, Martin Griffiths, has said life is draining out of Gaza at terrifying speed, unquote. Even some Biden administration officials have admitted the Gaza death toll could be significantly higher. This is Barbara Leaf, Assistant Secretary of State for Near Eastern Affairs, speaking last November.
In this period of conflict and conditions of war, it is very difficult for any of us to assess what the rate of casualties are. We think they're very high, frankly, and it could be that they're even higher than are being cited. We'll know only after the.
They have to be higher than is cited. It would make no sense for the cited death toll to be accurate, like completely accurate, or an undercount. Like, they have decimated the health system. There are mass graves, literal mass graves, not to mention the thousands who have been detained and disappeared, thousands buried and missing. These are the people who die under medical supervision. That can't be the totality. It's ridiculous to think that.
The guns fall silent. So we take in sourcing from a variety of folks who are on the ground, and so I can't stipulate to one figure or another, but I think it's very possible that they're even higher than is being reported.
That was Assistant Secretary of State for Near Eastern Affairs, Barbara Leaf. The prestigious British medical journal Lancet has estimated the actual death toll could be 186,000 or even higher, roughly 8% of Gaza's population. The report looks at how war leads to indirect deaths due to shortages of medical care, food, shelter, and water. This all comes as protests continue, demanding the U.S. government immediately halt its military aid to Israel and calling on Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris, who's debating Donald Trump tonight in Philadelphia, to shift her policies on Gaza. For more, we go to Washington.
She won't. It's going to be the same line. Israel has a right to defend itself. And Harris will have a different policy than Trump and say that the war has to end. And Trump will say, no, the war doesn't have to end. Israel should finish the job. But she will maintain her hardline stance of supporting Israel. It would be naive to think otherwise.
D.C., where we're joined by Ralph Nader, longtime consumer
Ralph
advocate,
Nader,
corporate
interesting.
critic, former presidential candidate 4 times. He's the author of many books, including most recently, Let's Start the Revolution, Tools for Displacing the Corporate State and Building a Country That Works for the People. Ralph Nader is the founder of the monthly print-only newspaper, Capitol Hill Citizen, where his front-page article on the latest issue is headlined, Exposing the Gaza Death Undercount. Let's start with this undercount. What you are saying is so much higher, the death toll in Gaza, than what we understand.
Amy, this is a horrifyingly undercount, and it has political rationale for it. If the true count was known, it would devastate the mythology that the Biden administration and Congress are furthering, that the Israeli government does not purposely target civilian populations and therefore violate all kinds of U.S. laws conditioning the shipment of weapons to Israel and international laws. So I put together in this article in the Capital Citizen, people can go to capitalcitizen.com and get it. The various probative evidence that shows that experts who are blocked from getting additional data that the State Department has and is keeping secret, that the evidence shows that it's well over 300,000, and it may double by the end of the year. In an article in The Guardian by the Distinguished Chair of Global Public Health at the University of Edinburgh, titled "Scientists Are Closing In on the True Horrifying Scale of Death and Disease in Gaza," she estimates over 300,000 before.
Yeah, Haho is 100% correct. Clams, and it seems like you're once again trying to be a contrarian and just both siding this. Like, you made a fair point, but like the true issue is that we are supplying these fucking bombs and have armed Israel and funded Israel. The US has a unique relationship with this genocide. And like, you know, yeah, you say like a international ground invasion would have been less destructive. But like, what would have been less destructive is like if Israel wasn't occupying Palestine for the last 75 years.
To the end of the year, pointing out with the Lancet report that you mentioned, that the Lancet people used a very, quote, used a very conservative estimate, but allowed that the number could easily be much higher. And so why is this happening? Why are all sides, the anti-genocide side, the Israeli, the Hamas, why are they always using these figures? Because for different reasons it serves their political purposes. Hamas doesn't want the true count to be known because it will be assailed by its own people. And
okay, Ralph Nader, what the fuck? What is this?
its international allies is unable to protect its own people and provide shelters. Netanyahu, of course,
I don't agree with that take at all.
Wants it lowballed for obvious reasons, and Biden for the same reason. So what do these scientists see? They see a tiny enclave, the geographical size of Philadelphia, with 2.3 million people, crowded, already sick and destitute from years of Israeli illegal embargoes, high levels of anemia among the children before October 7th. And then starting October 8th, the Israeli military issued the genocidal orders of no food, no water, no medicine, no electricity, no fuel. And they proceeded accordingly. And so what these scientists are seeing are what's called the empirical evidence that people on social media are seeing and others. With over 130,000 bombs and missiles, plus daily tank shelling, ruthless sniper fire, there's been massive destruction. of apartment buildings, congested marketplaces, refugee camps, hospitals, over 150 health clinics, masses of families huddled in schools being blown up, ambulance being blown up, bakeries destroyed, schools, universities, mosques, churches, roads, electricity networks, critical water mains, just about everyone and everything. And some people, partisans of Netanyahu, will say, oh, the Israeli government never targets civilians. Historically, they've always targeted civilians. Go back to the early 80s when former Israeli ambassador and foreign minister Abba Eban wrote of Israel under then Prime Minister Menachem Begin that Israel, and I'm quoting him, quote, is wantonly inflicting every possible measure of death and anguish on civilian populations in a mood reminiscent of regimes which neither Mr. Begin nor I would dare to mention by name, end quote. And just a few years earlier, in the late 70s, Israel's leading military analyst, summing up remarks by the Israeli chief of staff, stated the following, quote, the Israeli army has always struck civilian populations, purposefully and consciously. The army has never distinguished civilian from military targets, but purposely attacked civilian targets, end quote. And why is this important? Because to this day, all of the administration's spokespeople are denying that Israel has targeted civilians, denying that Israel has violated international genocide laws, denying that they have violated 6 federal statutes conditioning shipment of weapons to foreign countries on recognizing human rights excessively. To this administration and to the Congress, all deaths of civilians are accidental. Blowing up schools, sheltering refugees, well, that was a mistake. So that's why it's important, Amy, in one, to get that estimate as reliably high as possible. We are seeing possibly 1 million deaths before the end of the year. We have starvation, we have infectious diseases. All the doctors that you've had on Democracy Now! Have provided the clinical evidence of what's going on. 5,000 babies born every month into the rubble, contaminated water, horrific air pollution with heavy metals from the bombing, and no food. We're led to believe by these 41,000 figures that 98% or more of the Palestinian population is still alive. I mean, what are they made of? Asbestos and steel? And as the doctors have said on your program, when they went back to the rubble and the broken hospitals, they didn't meet anybody in Gaza who wasn't sick or injured. There's an interview in February in Al Jazeera by a Gaza undertaker who's doing this free of charge and crying every day with his assistants on the open graves. He says he's buried 17,000 bodies, including 800 in one day, and that was back in February.
Ralph, I wanted to ask you, in addition to the bombings and the killings of civilians, Israel has also refused to allow foreign press to come into Gaza and has systematically been killing those journalists, those Palestinians within Gaza who are reporting. Talk about this attack on the press that really has not gotten much outrage in the West.
Yeah, I mean, how weak can you get as a president of the United States or member of Congress when you can't even demand that Netanyahu let foreign and Israeli journalists, including U.S. journalists, into Gaza to freely report? He's been blocking this for years. And Israeli military is targeted, as you indicated, Palestinian journalists. They've killed over 165 of them, including, in addition to members of their own family, targeting apartments.
Good morning, Pendulous Dragon. And Joker, I think Nightbot is just slower on YouTube. And we're also, for smoke times, we are down to the please help Adrian get THC until payday. times.
For example, they've killed over 200 members of UNRWA, the UN relief. They're out
170 journalists
to destroy every relief center, every food feeding center of UNRWA, education center. I mean, this is right now. Let's put it in comparative terms here. More Palestinians have been killed since October 8th than have been killed by the U.S. in Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and Dresden. That total death toll was about 240,000 people. And those deaths were in countries, Germany and Japan, with 160 million population. Here we only have 2.3 million population. And all you got to do is read the Israeli press, read Haaretz, read the statements by 17 Israeli human rights groups.
Ralph Nader, we want to thank you for being with us. Longtime consumer advocate, corporate critic, four-time former presidential candidate. We'll link to your article in the Capitol Hill Citizen exposing the Gaza death undercount. That does it for our show. Watch tonight's debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris at democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez.
This next song was on the radio yesterday. Sunday afternoon, 34 degrees. Queensland, summer heat. Only sweater buckets up and down my street. Sounds fine to fight. Got to some of his new craze road. You'll be on the side floats. They said.
I figure the live might not get copywritten. It's not the same track. So like live music we might be able to do. We'll see what happens. Fingers crossed. Pendulous Dragon, I know, honey. It is rough. Today is a rough one. Yeah, or like covers of songs, you know? At least 40 dead and dozens injured in Israeli strikes in southern Gaza. Strikes at tents housing displaced people in the Al-Mawasi area. Three craters 7 meters deep were created, burying over 20 tents. Israel says they attacked Hamas operations center in Khan Yunis. Hamas denied Israeli military claims, calling it a blatant lie. Local reports, Israel used US-made MK-84 bomb to hit humanitarian zone. Good morning, Regulus. American-made MK-84 bomb. U.S. President Biden has threatened to pause some weapon shipments to Israel. He was particularly concerned about the devastating effects of the 2,000-pound aerial weapons. The Mark 80 bombs are general-purpose bombs, can be used on any target. They come in 250-pound, 500-pound, 1,000-pound, and 2,000-pound versions. The 2,000-pound MK-84 is the largest in the series, used in some of the worst attacks on Gazans. The bomb's smooth skin shatters into razor-sharp fragments that can shred human flesh. Anyone within 115 feet of 250-pounders impact has 10% chance of being killed. Lethal radius jumps to 600 feet for a 1-ton bomb that explodes above ground. U.S. forces do not use 2,000-pound bombs often. Last used in Operation Desert Storm. Israel, on the other hand, reaches for the 2,000-pound bombs far more often. %, of 1,000 to 2,000-pound pound munitions dropped in Gaza in the first 2 weeks of the war. £2,000-pound bombs are too powerful to be used responsibly in populated enclaves like Gaza.
Good evening, this is Dimitri Laskarius.
And good evening to you, Dimitri Laskarius. Maybe we'll we can do that as a break. Yeah, that shouldn't be that one should be fine. Where is it? On the hype list, I think.
listen, man. Looking in your eyes, I see that we're aligned. This war that we fund is too good to be true. America's beside you, all these bombs to give you.
I mean, I'm too poor to pay taxes, but yeah. I mean, it's outrageous, but like, and it's very upsetting to know that our tax dollars go to this, and it definitely implies the unique, it's an indicator of the unique relationship between Israel and the United States. However, I think it's important for everyone to be concerned about this, whether our tax dollars are funding it or not. Cat video? What cat video? What are you talking about?
Our whole GDP will just wire to you.
Let them say we're psychos. I don't care about that. History started when Hamas launched their attack. Let the whole damn region just fall apart. We're the persecuted ones, so have a heart. And we can win this thing together. Ethnic crimes forever.
You want to drop a link?
Gonna stop us now. And when the
or I'll find it in a minute.
out of Gazans, we'll go kill their cousins. The Hague ain't gonna stop us. Nothing's going to stop us now. Low, low. I'm so glad we're bombing. This war is super calming. A ceasefire would mean I'd be going to jail.
Folks say it's unlawful, and yeah, the polls are awful, but Trump's on the ballot. Of course I'll prevail.
Let's go, Brandon.
Let them say it's genocide. What do they know? So you bomb the Gazans right where you tell them to go.
If we kill a hostage, or maybe 3, that's the price we pay to save ethnocracy.
You mean democracy.
And we can win this thing together. Human rights, whatever. Nothing's going to stop us now. So let the courts keep pressing charges.
Ooh, these block our barges.
Nothing's gonna stop us. Nothing's going to stop us now.
All that I need is you.
You're all that I ever need.
And all that I want to do is back you forever, forever and ever. Play it, Tony.
Yes, Mr. Blinken, yes.
Oh, yeah, that's smooth.
Smooth like a 2,000-pound bomb. And we'll just keep committing war crimes, then go do some more crimes. Nothing's gonna stop us now. And you can save your moral sermons, 'cause we've got the Germans. The Hague ain't gonna stop us.
Nothing's gonna stop us.
And we'll create a global crisis. Claim Hamas is ISIS. Nothing's going to stop us now.
And if South Africa accuses,
they just hate the Jews. The Hague ain't gonna stop us.
Nothing's gonna stop
we'll
us.
Just keep on genociding.
Baby rides with Biden.
Nothing's gonna stop us now.
Nothing's gonna stop us.
And if our wrath gets any lower, we'll invoke the Shoah. The Hague ain't gonna stop us. Nothing's gonna stop us now or ever.
That's how you sing a goddamn song.
You are correct, sir.
I think that's the take right there, man.
Where's our Nobel Peace Prize?
High five.
Don't think I can do this one, though. Okay. Humanist Report just put this out. I don't know what is going on with this absolutely racist bullshit from the right, but we're going to check it out. Just a little bit of dog shit in the morning. Joker. I'm glad I could help you out.
Republicans and some who purport to be on the left were claiming that Venezuelan gangs in Aurora were taking over entire apartment complexes. But after that BS hoax was debunked, well, right-wingers immediately latched onto a new xenophobic conspiracy theory to scare you into thinking that you should be very, very worried about Haitian migrants, specifically because they want to kidnap your pets and eat them. Yeah. That's the new claim. J.D. Vance, for example, tweeted months ago, I raise the issue of Haitian illegal immigrants draining social services and generally causing chaos all over Springfield, Ohio. Reports now show that people have had their pets abducted and eaten by people who shouldn't be in this country. Where is our borders are? Referring to Kamala Harris, of course. Now, you'll see in a moment that there's absolutely no evidence for this, but Vance wasn't the only one to spread this conspiracy theory. He's just the most prominent Republican to spread this conspiracy theory. There were others. Republican Representative Mike Collins tweeted, without evidence, they're in the park grabbing up ducks by the neck and eating them. Okay. Elon Musk then shared an AI image of Trump saving a duck and a kitten that was literally tweeted by the Republicans on the House Judiciary Committee. Very, very serious party, folks. And then we have this one from Miles Ian Chong, who's not even an American, by the way, who tweeted out an extremely racist image that's AI generated of two Haitian immigrants chasing Trump, who's running away with kittens, because of course Trump is the hero who's trying to protect your pets from these scary Haitians. Now, the reason why they have all these AI generated images is because this isn't happening, so they have to fabricate it. Charlie Kirk shared two images, one with the headline that reads, Biden floods Ohio town with 20,000 Haitian migrants, and another with a viral Facebook post from somebody who says that her neighbor told her that a Haitian in the neighborhood abducted her cat to eat it, and that this was happening to dogs too, apparently. Now, Charlie Kirk added that this was another gift of the Biden-Harris mass immigration replacement plan, trying to loop in the white supremacist great replacement conspiracy theory as well. He adds, liberals will soon be lecturing Americans on why they need to be sensitive to Haitian culture and accept this as the new normal. Those idiots deserve to be condemned and mocked mercilessly. Save our pets, secure our borders. White supremacist Stephen Miller joined in, adding, we've reached the point in Kamala's migrant invasion where the migrants are stealing and eating Americans' pets. And idiot Ted Cruz tweeted out an image of two cats with the caption, please vote for Trump so Haitian immigrants don't eat us. There's more, but you get the point. This is honestly exhausting to me. If you're genuinely that concerned about people who eat dogs, then why are you cool with RFK Jr. endorsing Donald Trump, who allegedly ate a dog? Don't you have a problem with him? Why are you cool with Kristi Noem? Kristi Noem shot her pet dog, and then she shot her pet goat. I feel like they're more of a threat to pets than any immigrant in the country. But of course, the goal here is to scare you into thinking that these black immigrants are savages who have no regard for American culture and customs, and they've brought their barbarism into our pure white country, and we have to reject that. Aside from this being extremely fucked up and dehumanizing and obviously extremely racist, none of it is true. Obviously. First of all, Haitian people don't eat dogs and cats. They basically eat the same kind of meats that Americans eat. Chicken, pork, goat, lamb, shrimp, crab, etc. And guess what? They also, you're going to be shocked by this, have pets in Haiti. Cats, dogs. Shocking, I know. And the picture that they were circulating of the guy holding geese is weird because, if that's evidence that they're savages, Americans go duck and goose hunting all the time. So are Americans also savages, or does that moniker only apply to people with melanin? Not to mention, we have no idea if that guy in that photograph is even Haitian or if he lives in Ohio, since the entire conspiracy is based on fiction in the first place. Now, I shouldn't say it's entirely based on fiction, because I will grant them that one cat was indeed eaten, and that's obviously really sad, but that's the kernel of truth that they're basing this entire conspiracy theory on. The problem is that the cat wasn't eaten by an immigrant. It was eaten by somebody who was seemingly mentally unwell, but happens to be an American citizen. Wasn't a Haitian migrant. But they're trying to scapegoat Haitian migrants because
racism.
Take a guess. Now, as the New Republic reports, right-wingers seem to have conflated a report from Canton, Ohio, of a woman who was arrested for allegedly killing and eating a cat with complaints from residents in Springfield, more than 170 miles away from Canton. The woman is a U.S. citizen, and there is no indication she is a Haitian immigrant. Meanwhile, police in Springfield say they have received no reports of pets being stolen and eaten, according to the Springfield News-Sun. The newspaper says that the rumor began from a local Facebook group where a poster claimed that her neighbor's daughter's friend lost her pet cat and found it hanging from a tree branch at a Haitian neighbor's home to be carved and eaten. The post cited with no evidence that rangers and police said that they have been doing it at a local park with ducks and geese, according to the newspaper. But these reports do not appear to have reached the right, who are not only spreading the rumor, but using it to promote anti-immigrant policies and make racist attacks. Of course, but I mean, you know, somebody on Facebook said it, so it must be true, because there's a lot of truth coming from Facebook these days, right? I don't understand why their standard for evidence is so laughably low. Literally any one of us can make up whatever bullshit claim we want on Facebook. Something going viral doesn't automatically make it true. And it's not evidence, right? A Facebook post making a claim is not evidence. You need more than that in order for a story to be true. I see a lot of crazy shit on Facebook, a lot of it coming from my own family, and I can guarantee you they have no evidence for the bullshit that they're espousing, so you shouldn't just take a viral post at face value, because that's not what evidence is. Now, the reason why Republicans are obviously trying to pawn this off on Haitian immigrants is because, well, first and foremost, anytime they have the opportunity to link something bad to immigrants, they're going to do that because they're opportunists. But they're claiming that Haitian immigrants are responsible for the original lady eating the cat because that lady is black. And people are implying that she's a Haitian immigrant, but that's not true. In fact, people found out that she's actually registered to vote in Ohio, which confirms that she's a citizen. And any normal human being would see that story and react with disgust and sadness. And I genuinely feel bad for the cat because I love cats. But it's clear that the woman has severe mental health issues that haven't been addressed. But conservatives took that story, and rather than feeling sadness, they tried to turn it into a conspiracy theory to dehumanize immigrants who have nothing to do with that story. It is extremely fucked up. Haitian immigrants, like all of us, are human beings, and they are trying to live their best lives and pursue happiness and stability just like the rest of us. And they're minding their own business, and they're still getting demonized by racist Americans who think that they're barbarians who shouldn't be in our pure white culture. It's despicable. It's so gross. They're just like us. They're human beings. Why are we treating them as if they're savages? The only antiquated thing that's happening here is the xenophobia coming from Americans. That's antiquated. That is something that you would expect from barbarians. And listen, like all immigrants, they're just trying to live their life. But Republicans want to dehumanize them and fearmonger about crime that they're bringing into the country because they're just fucking racist. Full stop. Immigrants, both documented and undocumented, are statistically far less likely to commit crime than citizens, which makes a lot of sense because if they commit crime, they have so much more to lose than the rest of us. They could lose everything. But anytime there's one anecdote of a single immigrant doing something bad, the right will blow it up, as they did the story in Aurora, and make it seem as if it's representative of the entire immigrant community that they're talking about. But it's the oldest trick in the book, and you shouldn't fall for it. Most immigrants are good people. I mean, no community is a monolith, but immigrants, by and large, are hardworking, good people. And I would much prefer to share a country with them than the fascist Republicans who are demonizing them nonstop.
Like everywhere everywhere there's glows. You see them all the time. I mean, it's constant. My children will be like, Mama, glow, 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 glow. I turn on TV, there's glows in the background. Every TV show, news media, why?
Glow, 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 glow. They're everywhere. Glow, 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 glow.
Yeah, so that's a thing that happened. Thank you for that, Soul Life. What's up, Black Dragon? Welcome in. Yeah. Oh yeah, Rebecca Azor is gonna have something to say about that for sure. Yeah, it's really gross. The racism is really fucking gross. Oh shit. We're good. We're good. Everything's fine. Okay. Oh. Yeah, that's true. Soul Life says Rebecca probably won't hear about it until Leftist Mafia.
And I was dead. There'd be no need to fix my head. There'd be no need to go to work. Renew the tags or wear a shirt. I wouldn't need nothing to do if it were me. Could have been you. Dead. If I died and it were odd, I'd grow a tree and that would rot and that would bloom. Sure enough, as part of things, as part of stuff, to everything you've got to turn. You don't deserve the things you earn. When you die, they don't know if there's a place you got to go, but hopefully there's no chores, just John Prine, celestial doors, and good friends, and fun times like the ones that fill up my mind. Dead.
Sorry about that. Yep.
Lascaris coming to you from Kalamata, Greece. Good evening, this is Dimitri Lascaris coming to you from Kalamata, Greece on September 9th, 2024. I've just returned from a week-long vacation, one frankly which I very much needed. And in the interim, although my absence was brief, there were, of course, important and troubling developments in the crisis in West Asia. In particular, I want to focus this evening on a killing that occurred on Friday of last week, September 6th, when an Israeli sniper shot in the head 26-year-old Esnur Ezgi Eji. She was a U.S. citizen, and Israel's military murdered her while she was protesting peacefully in the occupied West Bank against Israel's illegal occupation and settlements. When news of the killing broke, U.S. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller stated, quote, "We are urgently gathering more information about the circumstances of her death. We have no higher priority," he said, "than the safety and security of American citizens." No higher priority. Really? Earlier this year, Israelis murdered two 17-year-old Palestinian Americans in the West Bank. Tawfiq Abdel-Jabbar, a Louisiana native, was shot in January by an off-duty Israeli police officer. Several weeks later, Mohammed Kudur, a high school senior from Florida, was shot in the head by an Israeli gunman. In both cases, the U.S. government decried the killings, but it has yet to launch investigations. No one has been held accountable for either of these murders, and based on prior experience, no one ever will. In April of this year, an Israeli airstrike killed 7 aid workers in the Gaza Strip. The workers included a dual Canadian-American citizen. They were in a convoy leaving a World Central Kitchen warehouse in central Gaza. The dual Canadian-U.S. citizen was 33-year-old Jacob Flickinger. The strike took place despite extensive efforts to coordinate the movements of World Central Kitchen workers with the Israeli offensive forces. The attack also killed 3 British nationals, an Australian, a Polish national, and a Palestinian. The United States, Canada, Poland, and Australia demanded a full investigation, by Israel, of course. In 2022, an Israeli sniper shot and killed Shireen Abu Akleh, an Al Jazeera journalist. She was killed in the Jenin refugee camp in the occupied West Bank. At the time, she was reporting peacefully from the camp. She too was a U.S. citizen. No one has been held accountable for her murder either. On the contrary, Israeli forces continue to desecrate the shrine that Jenin's residents created for Abu Akleh after her death. I saw this for myself when I visited the Jenin refugee camp in March of this year. This is by no means an exhaustive list of Western citizens murdered and maimed by Israel's apartheid regime. There is, for example, the infamous case of Rachel Corrie. In 2003, an Israeli bulldozer crushed Corrie to death as she was peacefully protesting Israel's destruction of Palestinian homes in Gaza. Corrie was a U.S. citizen. She was 23 years old when she was killed. An Israeli army investigation concluded that the soldiers in the bulldozer's armored cab hadn't seen or heard her, and that she, the victim, was responsible for her own death by not moving out of the bulldozer's path. More than 70 members of the U.S. Congress signed on to a resolution calling for an American investigation into Corrie's death, but no independent investigation was undertaken. Today, in the sorry place that we find ourselves, it's difficult to believe that dozens of U.S. congresspersons would even call for that much. Then there was, of course, the Israeli military's deadly attack on the USS Liberty in 1967. Israel's Air Force and Navy killed 34 U.S. naval officers, seamen, Marines, and 1 civilian NSA employee. They also wounded 171 crew members and severely damaged the naval vessel. At the time, the Liberty was in international waters and was not firing upon anyone or anything. Israel, in that case, paid a few $1 million in compensation to the families of those killed and to the wounded survivors, but no Israeli went to jail for the attack on Israel's closest ally. U.S. support for Israel has continued throughout this decades-long period of lawlessness directed at Western citizens. In fact, U.S. military aid to Israel has increased dramatically during the past several decades. One could go on and on about Western citizens murdered or wounded by Israel, but a comprehensive review of Israel's attacks on Westerners would take many hours. Typically, Western governments respond to these attacks on Western citizens by demanding that Israel investigate itself. In what other justice system do the accusers call upon the accused to investigate itself? Inevitably, these self-investigations lead nowhere. By the time Israel's sham investigations are complete, the public usually has stopped paying attention, and Israel gets another free pass, as do the Western politicians who allowed it to escape justice. With respect to the murder last week of Esenur Ezgieji, the White House now says it has requested that Israel investigate Eji's killing, and we all know where that self-investigation will lead. In all likelihood, nowhere. The totality of the evidence leads inexorably to one appalling conclusion. The lowest priority for the American government is the safety of its own citizens, at least when it comes to the crimes of Israel. In effect, the US government and other Western states, including Canada, have given Israel a license to kill and maim Western citizens. That is the inexorable conclusion one must come to based upon the totality of the evidence. It's as simple as that. In the coming week, I hope to explore this and other issues with compelling guests, commentators, and analysts, including Gadi Francis, a war correspondent from Lebanon, Elijah Manier, who has also decades of experience in reporting upon wars in the region of West Asia. I'll also be speaking to Professors Radhika Desai and Michael Hudson about the divergence in the economic performance of the Russian Federation and major Western economies. I also plan to speak to my regular guest, Laith Marouf, a geopolitical analyst based in Beirut and the executive director of Free Palestine TV. And as events unfold, we may have more to say and talk about in the days ahead. For now, this is Dimitri Lascaris signing off from Kalamata, Greece on September 9th, 2024.
Do you actually condemn the actual act of killing an American citizen protesting, the aggression of, let's say, the Israeli occupation army? Do you condemn the act of the killing itself? Do you condemn that act?
Let's just be very clear. Of course, we would condemn the death. The death of any American citizen is heartbreaking. But let's be just very precise and clear that I am not going to speculate on what transpired on Friday, as those facts and those processes are still being determined and adjudicated, and we're going to let that process play out. It is troubling. It is tragic, and it certainly there is a responsibility here to share as much information as possible, so that Miss IG's family has the most appropriate accounting of what exactly transpired and what happened here. But Saeed, there is a process, and I'm just not going to get ahead of that. And I will, I'm not going to speak on behalf of our partners in Israel.
So you actually condemn the act.
Raven, that's really interesting and funny.
Of course, Saeed, the murder of any American citizen we would take issue with.
How I feel about that.
So let me just follow up. In Beta, there are protests in Beta every day. And in fact, 14 have been killed in the last maybe 12 months or so in Beta. It's a very peaceful protest. There's never any stones thrown out and so on. There are actual eyewitnesses that saw exactly what happened. So do you suspect that maybe there's some entity or some other person that have fired the shot other than an Israeli soldier?
Zaid, I think you and other colleagues, of course,
Good
this
question.
is your briefing. You can ask as many questions as you would like. You can ask the same questions as many times if you would like. That's
Wow.
I'm not going to change my answer.
Holy shit.
14 have been killed in the last maybe 12 months or so in Beta. It's a very peaceful protest. There's never any stones thrown out and so on. There are actual eyewitnesses that saw exactly what happened. So do you suspect that maybe there's some entity or some other person that have fired the shot other than an Israeli soldier?
Zaid, I think you and other colleagues, of course, this is your briefing. You can ask as many questions as you would like. You can ask the same questions as many times if you would like. That's not going to change my answer, which is that, one, around the specifics of what transpired, important work is continuing to being done to ascertain what exactly happened, and we are going to let that process play out. As I've said, as it relates to making those findings public, we expect that to happen as soon as possible. We expect that process to be thorough, transparent, and it to be as robust as it can be. But beyond that, I'm just not going to speculate from up here what happened or why or any of the reasoning side. As I said to Rabia, eyewitness accounts are, of course, helpful, key, informative to all of this, but there is a process in place, and we will let that process play out.
So would you rely on the eyewitness accounts, or you just rely on the Israeli?
I am not going to speak to the process side.
That's fine. I just want to take.
And again, I just want to reiterate again that we are working closely to ascertain the facts, but there is not a State Department-led investigation that is going on as it relates to
because
this.
The record, Vedant, is really quite abysmal, and when it comes to Israel investigating itself on the killing of Americans. I mean, I can take you back to March 16, 2003, when Rachel Corrie, a Jewish American, was killed by a bulldozer, in plain sight of everybody, and the Israelis only came back with an answer in 2012, and it was just like nothing there answer kind of a thing. And we saw this happen with Omar Assad. We saw this happen with Shireen Abu Akleh when it was killed, and you guys came out on July 4th, 2022 on a holiday, and you said that the intention was not there. So what guarantee do we have that this particular investigation that saw the murder of a 26-year-old American, Aisha Noor Egi, so we saw her murder. Everybody, there are a lot of accounts and so on. What guarantee do you have that this will be carried out, the investigation will be carried out thoroughly, fairly, transparently, and would lead to the proper result as far as you're concerned?
Saeed, I'm not going to color any of these findings until we see them. So I will just leave it at that, and not going to get ahead of the process here.
So do we have? I mean, I'm sorry, but let me just. Do we have any evidence from the past that Israel actually comes through on these investigations?
I will let the IDF and the Israeli government speak to their own accountability processes. I'm not going to get into that, but at every possible measure we reiterate the reminder that civilian death need to be minimized, not just in Gaza, but also when actions are being conducted in the West Bank, that it is critical and vital to peace and stability in the region, taking that moral and strategic imperative.
My last thing on this, I mean,
Evil cat, yeah.
Comes to the Israeli killing of Americans, Americans that are being killed by Israel and their families, they feel that these Americans are the children of a lesser God because Israel is committing the crime, Israel is committing the murder. Is that true?
It's not. Look,
it's not true.
Saeed, I'm not sure I fully understand your question.
I mean, they are less American than, let's say, when Israel commits, it is really the identity of the killer rather than the identity of the killed, so to speak.
Yes. This is a point that has been in my head because everyone's like, oh, well, they care now because an American was killed, and I'm like, they would care if an American was killed by Hamas, but if an American is killed by Israel, we don't know what happened. But when Israel says that Hamas killed one of the hostages that was recently found, We strongly condemn this. We are bringing charges of murder against Yahya Sinwar because of hostages. Like, fuck off.
So, again, I'm not sure I fully comprehend what you're asking, but let me just be pretty clear about this. In this context, in any context, to this government, to this State Department,
Yeah, so Soul Life on YouTube says they would have done a US airstrike if Hamas had done the murder. And then Raven on Twitch says, yeah, we are ready to stretch like a cat when it comes to Muslims supposedly doing something, but when it comes to Israel, quote, we don't want to speculate. Excellent points from chat.
An American citizen is an American citizen. A blue passport holder is a blue passport holder. Whether they are a Palestinian American citizen, a Turkish American citizen, an Israeli American citizen,
yeah, but if they're killed by Israel, then Israel has to investigate. But if this happens anywhere else in the world, it's immediately condemned.
The front part of that nomenclature is not nearly as important to us as the second half, and the fact that an American citizen is an American citizen, and we take the safety and security of American citizens incredibly seriously. It is. We spend a lot of time up here talking about foreign policy priorities and national security and our hopes for the world when it comes to foreign policy priorities. But I will tell you that for Secretary Blinken, for President Biden, there is nothing more important than the safety and security of American citizens.
Yeah. 100. Yeah, by saying that blue passport holders are blue passport holders, that, that is a clear admission that some lives are more valued than others. Not that every life matters and every death matters. Every murder needs to be, no, well, if they're an American citizen, they're, that's our highest priority. And the government's job in its own mind is to protect the American citizen. It doesn't do that. But I can see why that's their stated goal. But yeah. If we've seen for the last year, 1,200 Israeli lives matter, to so much more than 50, 60, 70,000 Palestinians. Man is the tiny little war criminal. Yeah. I think that they think that if you put yourself in harm's way protesting a foreign war in a foreign land benefits American empire, you're de facto surrendering your citizenship. I mean, yeah, I've got a video that has where is it, about the actual death toll, like an estimate. I figured we could use a little break, say what's up to everybody. The news is heavy today. You can't wait for the debate? Wow, Easel Cat. That is interesting. I was like, I was torn on whether or not I was gonna even watch it or if I'm gonna stream it. You know, it is gonna be wild. It is going to be wild. However, I mean, you know, and to be honest, because the polls are so close, this debate could actually be potentially, you know, might be doing reacts to it. Yeah. Kamala has never really been a strong debater, nor has she ever had to be. As a prosecutor, she was pretty much had home territory. You watch my appearance on Pondering Politics, I talk about this. I give it a 40% chance that Trump is just going to dog walk her. Yeah, I think this will tell a lot. Yeah, so this debate might actually be significant, you know? Like, in a lot of elections, there really isn't anyone, like, in the middle about anything, you know? Like undecided voters are a really small minority in most elections, but like this is a little bit different because we had Harris come in late, Biden dropping out, you know, like, and how fucked the Biden debate was and how significant that one was. I'm like, okay, I'm just here for the blood. Nice. Maybe get on Jake's stream? No, I don't think so, but thank you. Jake and I don't agree on enough for us to watch the debate together, I don't think. It might be good to collab with somebody. Who is Jake? Jake. What's his last name? Can't remember. He does a show called What You Can Do. He's a YouTuber, newsy guy. He's also on a show with the Letter Hack every Wednesday called Left Past 10. He's lost a lot of the Raptor gang, Soul Life says. Interesting. Yeah, that's cool, AC. I hope they have fun. All right. I need a... Oh, hey, look at the time.